the Solo Coach Podcast.
Hi, Karen. Welcome to the Solo Coach Podcast.
Hi there, David. Thank you for having me on. Privileged to have the opportunity.
Thank you for coming on. It is the pleasure. The pleasure's all mine. For anyone listening, just for context, this one's been a while in the making. We've been talking about this back and forth, but Karen is an extremely busy person who's difficult to nail down. But as I have said to her before we started the recording, I am absolutely sure this is going to be worth the wait. No pressure, Karen.
Thank you.
So to introduce you, today I'm thrilled to be joined by Karen Cooke, who is a website creator and business setup advisor who runs her own business called KOG, that's KOG, KOG Digital. I met Karen at a business networking event earlier this year in Leeds. We immediately hit it off. And we were talking about the importance of partnering with our clients and empowering them to do what they need to do without relying on our help forever and ever and ever. So we're both in the business of doing ourselves out of a job in a way. What also drew me to Karen is how she's a fellow advocate for the path less followed and left her old life in London behind many, many years ago in favour of more recently RV and van life, as we call it in the UK. So more to come on that later. But I just want to start by asking you, can you tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do as a website creator and business setup advisor?
Okay, thank you ever so much, David, for that great introduction. So I'm Karen. I've got my own business. I try to help small businesses get set up, stop them being overwhelmed by the amount of things they have to deal with when setting up, compliance, business structure, all those sorts of things, as well as creating their digital presence, so websites. And I've done the odd social media setup as well. But I try to do it in a way that it is budget friendly. And I provide step-by-step guides so they're able to go away and do things for themselves and not always have to come back to me. Because I know starting a business is expensive. So I try to make it an easy process that's smooth. And they can come back to me when things are better and we can, once they've got going and they've got more money in their business, and they want to improve or they've decided to niche, then we can go back over websites and stuff.
Thanks,
So
Karen.
that's me in a nutshell.
Thanks for that whistle stop tour. So before I ask you what led you to starting KOG Digital, I'm always curious to ask the question, what differentiates you from other website designers, website creators? And as I know, you can go on, I think you can go on Fiverr, you can have someone make you a website almost for free, I think these days, or you can build your own. And it's such a minefield knowing who on earth to go to for a website to be built and how to go about doing that and how to pick which platform to do it on.
Okay, I think for me, I probably stand out because I've got the business set up side of things as well. So I can sit down and talk to people that are building new sites and say, is this what you really want to do? Talk to me about the things that you want on your website. Try and draw out of them what they're more passionate about. Make sure all the compliance and the legal side is set up. So they've got all of their privacy policies, cancellation policies if they need them. I then focus on easy, user-friendly websites such as WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, because they are websites that people can use themselves with a little bit of guidance. And one of the things that I offer once I've got it all set up and the SEO sorted is that I offer step-by-step guides. They can go away and do changes themselves, add those blogs on a regular basis without the fear of not knowing what they're doing. And I think that's what separates me from everybody else, the fact that I've got some of those other little bits and I'm trying to make it as budget friendly as possible.
Okay, so if my understanding is right, as a client of yours, not only are you going to partner with me to understand my business and help me build it and grow it, you're going to make sure that my website aligns with my vision for my business and equip me to be able to manage that website myself once you've helped me build it or built it for me, but then also with that comfort blanket of knowing that you are there in case I do press something and break it.
Yes, indeed. So the idea is that you can mostly go away and do things yourself. You don't have to keep coming back to me, like a lot of the people draw you in and they will charge you for hosting and charge you for other things. But I'm trying to help people feel the confidence of going and building a website and doing those extra things themselves because I've given them the confidence. I had a lady that I've worked for previously, total technophobe. She is now able to upload blogs and change images, which she never thought that she'd be able to do. And she doesn't have to pay me to do it. So, which I think for small businesses that are just getting off the ground is just really important because they don't have the money to pay for all these things. So
And
yeah.
thanks, Karen. And why did you choose? Why do you choose to have that business model that's equipping people to essentially go away and, doing yourself out of a job, as opposed to perhaps more of a model where you create a standard offering and then you manage it on a monthly fee, and they have nothing to do with it other than maybe sending you content and you putting it on the website?
I think it's become because I become from a different place to a lot of people. So I I mean I can't say I haven't set up the business to make money because we all need to make money. And it's nice to have a bit of extra cash, but I don't have to do this job. I have found myself in a position where I've got more available time. I
Mm.
wanted something for myself. I wanted something to show my daughter that I'm more than just a mum and a teacher to her. And I think because I come from that side of things and I'm not there to make lots and lots of money, it's for me, it's more about trying to help people, something for myself, feeling good about myself for being able to help people. And therefore, I realized that it's something that's not available to a lot of new businesses, someone that is thinking about the money, thinking about trying to keep things cheap for them. So many of these website companies are wanting to charge you thousands for getting you online. I mean, there is Fiverr, but a lot of the time the SEO isn't great on those. Um, I'll leave that there. But I think because I come from a different place, I start from a different place, that it's not all about the money for me. It's about helping other people.
Sounds
Yeah.
very, very values based and doing it for the right reasons. But it also seems like you spotted a bit of a niche in the market, a bit of a gap, and decided to plug it. Because my understanding is in your industry, you could have gone and worked for a large organization as a web developer and probably earned a substantial amount of money, but not choosing who you work with, how you work with them, as that's all kind of above your head.
Yes, indeed. I wanted something that was for myself that would work around my family and my daughter, who I home educate. I didn't want to be in that big corporate environment that I've been in the past, because there's more to life than just working.
Mm.
And I saw that there's people out there that want to set up businesses that are, even if it's just part-time to start with, that don't have the money, but want to get off the ground, feeling very overwhelmed, and no one is there to help them.
Mm.
And I saw that and I thought, no, this is for me. This is what I want to do.
Thanks, Kat. I'm
So,
sure anyone listening, particularly any fans of the show, can almost feel the direction this conversation's going in with what you're talking about. But and staying on the topic of what you do with your business, sort of taking a step back, I'm a great fan of work-life harmony as opposed to work-life balance. And I'd love to know more about, as you were mentioning there, you wear a lot of hats, homeschooling your daughter, and how do you balance running a business and being a mum and homeschooling your daughter, and everything else that is your life as well?
that's a tricky one. Been very probably unconventional, in the sense that my daughter comes first. Simple as my daughter comes first. I home educate her, so for me, it's so important that she's getting the right education, she's getting the lessons that she needs, she's getting the activities and exercise that she needs, she's getting the socialization. She's never been to school, so I have home educated her from the start. She is now 12 and takes a lot of responsibility for her own education. She's got online tutors. She chooses kind of what lessons that she does. We've obviously stipulated she needs to do her maths and her English, which is, you know, but other than that, she can choose her own subjects. So my schedule works around her. We have a structure in place that has her lessons, her activities. From that, I also look at what I need to do for the family. And I say, right, okay, each week, this is what I have to do for them. These are the extra hours I have available to work. Quite often, on a Monday, I spend 3 hours at a community centre while she's doing various activities. So I sit and work while she's doing the activities. And I work around her, and it works for me. Yeah, I work some very unconventional hours. You will get emails from me of any time, day, night, weekend. But that's what suits me, and suits my family and what I wanted. Because I have learned over the years, it's not about 9 to 5. It's about the journey. It's about enjoying life, taking moments out to go for walks, see your family grow. It's not just about working. I mean, yeah, my clients are very important to me. And when I'm working on my clients' work, they have 100% of my attention. And I will put in all the hours that is required to meet the goals and succeed with their projects for them. But yeah, business, family and is just, more important than health.
Mm. I really feel it. And I'm curious that the Karen we're seeing now and speaking to now isn't the Karen that's always been. And I know from speaking to you about your backstory, there was a time when life was very, very different living in the capital. And I was curious as to if you could tell us more about how that life was, and then what led you into that huge decision, especially to change the way you live and live in quite an unconventional way.
Um,
Really big
indeed,
question,
that's a
sorry.
no, that's fine, and it's an interesting question for a lot of people. So yeah, I spent many years, 12, 13 years, commuting from Kent into London, on a motorbike of all things,
And a
working
big
very
one, not
hard.
just a little one.
Yeah, working hard in law and finance fields. I was a compliance officer for many years in an investment bank, working on the trade floor, suited and booted, working long hours, earning lots of lovely money, partying hard, enjoying my life. Um, and yeah, it was a very different type of life to what I have now. It was very enjoyable. I had lots of lovely things. I got to do lots of lovely things. I had the house, I had the cars, I had the motorbikes. My husband and I, had 13 years of being together and enjoying things. And then he actually got the threat of redundancy, and at this point, my daughter was 5. I'd stopped working in London because my job wouldn't let me go part-time. And there was no way I was taking a baby up to London every day to put her in childcare and work 7 till 6, 7 till 7, and not see her. I didn't want that. And I had the opportunity that my husband could take on the burden of all the household bills and I could take the time off. I was never intending to homeschool, it just happened. And we're glad we've done it. So I worked in London for many years, had my daughter 13 years ago. That's what I was trying to say. Had my daughter 13 years ago. I stopped working because I couldn't go part-time. Didn't want to have her up in London, in nursery, didn't want to not see her. That wasn't the point of having children for me. So I stopped working, started looking after her at home, homeschooling, doing a few little entrepreneurial businesses myself while I could, little bits and pieces. Then 6 years ago, my husband was at risk of redundancy, and he said to me, "Why don't we sell up and go traveling for a year? Use that redundant money to do something, live, have fun. Why our daughter's of an age that she can enjoy things, she wants to be with us still, go and show her a bit of the world. He then didn't get made redundant, which was like, oh my gosh, we've got this big idea. We still want to do it. So we said, fine, do you know what? We're still going to do it. We're going to sell up. We didn't like where we lived anyway. So let's sell up, go traveling for a year, come back, find new routes. So we did. We bought an American RV, and 6 months later, he was made redundant and he took a year off, and we traveled in France and Italy. We slow traveled. So we actually spent 7 months traveling through France, 4 months traveling through Italy. We went all the way down to Pompeii, which is where my daughter wanted to go. She wanted to see the Roman sites. We climbed Mount Vesuvius, and then made our way back. And we got home and said, we don't want to stop. We want to continue doing this.
Mm.
So we sold all the stuff we put in storage, and my husband started setting up a business for himself and working part-time so he could work while we were on the road. And we carried on for 4 years traveling, traveled through pandemic. We were in Spain for 9 months, which was interesting, and a little bit tough because their rules were very strict during the pandemic. Um, and then yeah, we've seen bits of Italy, France, Spain, Cornwall, different parts of England. And we've ended up in Leeds, and my daughter said, "That's it, Mum. I don't want to travel too much anymore." And we went, "Oh, okay." And we always agreed at the very beginning that if someone said no, that's it, we would stop. And so we're still in the van. We're in Leeds. We have a permanent address that we go back to because obviously we can't live in the van permanently. So we to and fro. But then majority of the time we still live in the van because actually, do you know what? We really like being in the van.
Mm.
So it's
Clearly.
I mean, you know what traveling's like. You've done it yourself. It's
Yeah.
contagious.
It is. But I'm just, the key thing there is, I mean, wow, what a story. Thanks for sharing. It's, I want to take you back to that point where you made the decision, where you were making the decision to go and, leave your old life behind, buy a van and do this outrageous thing that not many people do. And I'm curious as to what were some of the fears and doubts and what were people saying to you at that time?
Um, Obviously, oh my gosh, are we doing the right thing? Like, this is quite scary. A year of no one working. Can we truly afford it? Um, what is it going to be like? Are we going to be able to cope living in such a small space, all of us, all the time, in each other's faces?
Mm.
It took a bit of getting used to, definitely. Um, I think some of the reasons around doing it was partly because unfortunately we'd lost friends and family members at quite young ages. I had a friend that was killed in a car accident at 36. I had a family friend that dropped dead of a heart attack at 40. When we were just in the process of making the decision, my mum unfortunately passed away at 66. And it cemented in our minds that we need to do this now. We need to do this while we can. I didn't want to wait until I'd retired and then not have it happen because I waited too long. I wasn't in health to travel, passed away too early, things like that. It makes you realize when you lose people that life is too short. And we wanted something different. We wanted to show our daughter that there's more to life than just working. So, yeah, I mean, we had fears about food, we had fears about language, living together, being in that close environment. But do you know what? The whole thought of living now and not waiting carried us on.
Mm.
It made it what it needed to be. I mean, you've traveled, you know why you've traveled. And once you get out there, you realize that material things are not what's important in life. It's the journey, it's the experiences, it's learning from each other and the world around you, not just working.
Preach. Wow. Wow. I'm almost moved beyond words because I agree so entirely, so much. I'm literally nodding along, thinking, yes, exactly the same conclusions I came to. I'm also wondering what it was like being in the van as the world was sort of collapsing around that 2020 time, COVID, the pandemic, when it was almost, I was scared to go outside sometimes, in certain areas, not knowing what on earth was going on. I mean, it was incredibly anxiety triggering, difficult time. And I can't begin to imagine how it was for you guys being uprooted in a foreign land in the van. How was that?
Do you know what? It was probably easier, to be fair. We were already away from friends and family. So we'd been traveling for quite some time. We were used to being away from friends and family. So the aspect of not seeing them probably wasn't so hard because we did go 7 months without seeing family. Um, we had a community where we were because we stayed in the same location, and there were other people, there were other British people, some French, some Spanish, all on the same campsite that we were on. And we built our own mini community from a distance. We would get tables out, and you'd have a family sat that side and a family that sat this side. We'd have our own packs of playing cards, and we would play card games, but not touching each other's thing. Um, it was we I'm still in contact with the friends that I made during lockdown because it was a shared experience that we all enjoyed. Being in Spain, they were quite strict. They had rules about certain ages going out at certain times. We couldn't actually go out as a family of three together because of the age groups. This was for the first sort of 3 months, which is quite tough. And the rules out there were you had to wear a mask if you were outside, otherwise it was a €600 fine on the spot. They would literally take you to a cash point. Um, but do you know the area we were in El Campello, which is a small town in Spain, just outside Alicante, had 4 cases of COVID between March and October because they were so strict. You weren't allowed in a supermarket unless your temperature was taken. Things like that. You had to have your hands washed. They had masks. But when they did open up, they were so good with everything that you felt safe.
Mm.
And we just stayed. We were 10 minutes from the beach, 20 minutes from the mountains. It was perfect. So that first part of lockdown wasn't that bad for us because I think we were already used to being away from people. We were already used to using Zoom and things like that to talk to people. So it wasn't as bad. What hit me was when I came home, we spent 2 weeks in quarantine in our van, and that ended. And a day later, the second lockdown happened in the UK. That's when it became hard because that second lockdown, everyone didn't care. No one cared. You go to a supermarket and people would still be eating and leaning over you. And given how strict and how sensible people were in Spain, coming back to a place that felt that no one cared and people were leaning over you and touching you and eating. And I actually saw someone remove their mask and sneeze.
Mm.
And that terrified me more than anything. So being
Mm.
away during lockdown was fine. It
Mm.
was when I got back that it was harder.
Wow. Because
I mean, how did you cope?
returning from travel was incredibly hard. Harder the first time as I didn't know what to expect. It was slightly less difficult the next time as I had less expectation and I had a rough idea what to expect and how I would feel. So it made it a little easier, but by no means easy. And returning, like I say, returning from travel is hard enough, but returning from travel in those circumstances sounds incredibly difficult, like you
The
say.
hardest thing I found was it was like someone had turned a light switch off
Mm.
because we came back in November and we'd been from May to like November, we'd been in sunny climes. We'd come back, everything was a disaster. You couldn't see people, and it was dull and grey and wet, and it just felt like someone had turned that light switch off on me. And it was hard. It was hard to cope with. But my husband ended up saying to me one day, for goodness sake, you need to get out, go for a walk. You can't just stay in here and hide from the world. You've got to go out. You've got to do it for you, and you've got to do it for our daughter. And that is what
Mm.
got me back out the door.
Goodness me. And how long would you say it roughly took you to readjust to life back in the UK?
Um, 6 months.
Mm.
Yeah, it was tough. It was very tough with lockdown. I mean, coming back from traveling is always hard anyway. It's great to see friends and family and things like that, but I would always get itchy feet after a couple of months and be like, I need to go, I need to get traveling again, I need to experience things. I found it very, very hard. Um, and with lockdown as well, and just the risk, and because I was classed as high risk as well because I'm asthmatic. So it just, yeah, it was quite scary, and yeah, I would say I was falling into depression, definitely. It was tough, yeah, but yeah, needing to get out there and being there for my daughter was what kicked me back into life again.
And kept you going. No,
Yeah.
it's a little like coming down from a drug, I would imagine, and having had so much excitement, so many deep, wonderful, meaningful conversations, having just seen and traveled to such amazing places, coming back, you sort of initially, I wanted everyone, assumed everyone would want to spend, 24 hours straight chatting to me about where I've been, what I've discovered, how I feel about life now, and like have these deep, transformational heart to heart conversations about the purpose and meaning of life and all this. But people sort of would ask, how was your trip, Dave? Yeah, it was good. As though I'd been like on a holiday for a couple of weeks. And then we'd quite quickly get into them talking about how their neighbours still not putting their bins out, or how, the van across the road keeps parking across their drive. Little sort of meaningless things. And I just felt a little bit isolated. And it's not a dig at friends and family because for them life had just flown by and was just normal. Whereas I'd been off on what people might have thought of as a jaunt or a holiday, whereas in reality, it just changed my perspective on the world and life, and kind of torn up the rule book and started again.
It means that the things like that, the petty things like that, don't mean as much to you because you see life in a different perspective.
Mm.
For us, when we were traveling, we didn't just go to all the tourist spots. We went to rundown places and saw the countries for what they were, not just the glamour of the tourist hotspots. We got to try and dive into the culture and, see all of these things and see, like in Spain, there's so many deserted properties and there are people living in horrible places in Spain that just can't afford things. And it's not something I don't necessarily expect in some respects because when people talk about Spain, they talk about the sun and the beautiful coasts and all the rest of it. You don't see the really run down places that are deserted, and it's such a shame. It's such a shame. And I think that opens your eyes and you have all these wonderful experiences. You meet all these different people from different walks of life, and it just changes your perspective on life. For me, one of the things that I love more than anything now about being in the van is not having all the stuff. I don't need all of that stuff. It's quite refreshing. When we came back the first time and we looked through what we'd put in storage, I was like, why on earth have I kept that? I don't need that. Like, and we were just getting rid of things. I don't need a statue of this, and I don't need this, like, silly thing. Yeah, I don't need all of that stuff. It's not about that. It's about experiences and connections and helping people, and it's not about stuff anymore. It's
Exactly.
it's so different when you travel and you see different things. You just have a whole new outlook on life, definitely.
It is. And then, so you decided to come back and settle for now in the UK. I think for me, travel gave me this new lens through which I can appreciate the UK more. I haven't moaned about the UK, if at all, since I've come back. Whereas I used to be someone who was constantly a downer, being frustrated with the country, the politics, the weather, etc., etc. But now I realise that it's not perfect, but neither is anywhere else. New Zealand, Australia, Southeast Asia, South. You go to all these countries and you find out they've got a whole host of socio-economic issues, and nowhere is perfect. So you kind of got to choose where you want to be for your own personal reasons, and then and make your bed, lie in it, and
I mean,
yeah.
we ended up in Leeds. I never thought in a million years we'd end up here. I don't know why. I'm from Kent. I kind of assumed we'd go back to Kent, but you know what? It's too busy down there. Don't want to be down there. It's just so busy down there. I love being up here. And before I went traveling, um, I was never quite comfortable. I never felt truly settled. I was always missing something, but I didn't know necessarily what it was. I still don't necessarily know what it was, but I feel so much happier here now. Like, we've been in Leeds about 2 years now, and I don't have the itchy feet as much to go traveling. I feel settled here. There's lots of different things on my doorstep. There's culture, there's wildlife, there's lots of stuff. And I just feel a lot more settled than I did before. And I don't know if it's because I spent 4 years traveling and I got it out of my system, or if it's just because I've got a different outlook on life now. But I definitely feel a lot more settled than I used to.
So if someone's
So,
listening, and I know one person for sure will be, because he's at the cusp of doing the same thing that you have done with your family. And if he's listening and thinking, right, so, what can if he was to have a conversation with you over coffee and say, impart to me your wisdom, in a nutshell, what would you say is the most important thing to do or not do if you're going to, up sticks, buy a van, go and take your family abroad and go traveling and live that life?
um, try out a few vans first and work out what it is you need. Because one of the most important things to us, and it may sound really strange, is that we've got permanent beds and we don't have to make beds up every night. And it means that if someone is ill, they have a bed to be in and it doesn't disrupt the rest of the van life. Um, Headphones. Buy headphones because you can all be in a small space doing different things if you've got headphones on, and it can feel like you're in a completely different room, even though you're not. And compromise. Think about each other. Compromise. Don't, if someone's busy doing something and they don't need noise, don't start doing something that's going to be noisy. Like, think about each other, consider each other's feelings and what they're doing. And do you know what? It brings you closer together because you have to think about these things, you have to connect to each other. But my biggest thing would say, just do it. It is great. At the end of the day, if you go, it takes probably 3 months to settle in to it and get used to a new way of life. If after 6 months you don't like it, what have you lost? You can sell the van and buy a house again or move into rented accommodation. It's not the end of the world. You can
Mhm.
just go, try it, experience it. Yeah, you can always come back.
Mm. Wow, thanks for sharing, Karen. It feels like it actually translates really well into business as well. And if
Oh
you've
yeah.
got that calling, if you feel that you really want to give something a try, and you maybe going to regret not doing it, what is the cost of not doing it actually higher than the cost of just giving it a go? because it's not as impossible. I found it's not as impossible as you think to go back or tweak or change and do something else.
I mean, my husband, he obviously um got made redundant, took a year off, then started working for himself, um, got a reasonable amount of work that was keeping us going while we were traveling. He could work on the road. Um, it was all good. Pandemic hit. Unfortunately, he lost a lot of his clients, and he has now actually gone back to a permanent job, working remotely, but it's a permanent job. And he is glad he gave it all a good try, but he feels more comfortable working in a permanent position, knowing that, well, not necessarily knowing the money's always going to be there, but it just feels a bit more comfortable for him. I think he would love to be back out doing things for himself, but it's tricky. But you can swip and swap and move around, and it doesn't matter, it's give things a try. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. You can go back. It's not too hard. I mean, my brother and my dad um worked many, many years for companies, the same, not the same company, but my dad worked 20 years in the same company. My brother worked 15 years in the same company, never feeling truly respected. Um, and both of them got made redundant different times, and both ended up working for themselves and are so much happier for it. So much happier for it. And said, "Oh my God, my brother turned around and said, 'Why didn't I do this years ago?' And we said, 'We always said that to you,' but he never felt confident enough in his abilities to go and do something for himself. But actually, it's paid off for him, It's, it's made a big difference to his life. So,
Mm,
but
yeah.
my husband was able to go back to work, a permanent job. There's always options out there. My biggest thing now is just try things. Yeah, try things. What have you got to lose, really? I mean, I'm
It's
sure you feel the same. Like
I
you've
do.
obviously come out into this world and you're giving it a good go, and you've got some great clients, you've got amazing ideas, you've got so much heart, and I can feel your enthusiasm to help people and guide people. But you must have been scared along the route, like, but
Absolutely. 100%.
like, how do you feel about it? Would you say to people do it, or would you say no, it's too scary?
I think, like you say, I mean, thank you for sharing. We had the conversation before when you mentioned about your brother and your dad. My dad's been through the similar thing with retirement. He was able to retire a little bit earlier than he actually did, and when he did initially retire, he then went back to work. And the hardest thing about retiring wasn't retiring; it was coming to terms with the change of identity. When you've been something all your life, when you've been an IT professional like me, or if you've been a civil engineer like him, it can the prospect of losing that identity and becoming someone else and having that stripped away from you, it feels like it's going to hurt like hell, like it's going to be, like pulling a plaster off an open wound. And I think that's what scares people the most. It did me. And leaning into that discomfort, trying it, and knowing that the good bits of that identity still come along with me. I am still that same person, whether or not I'm in the role or not in the role, and who I was, and the reason I thrived and did well, and the reason I connected so well with my colleagues was because of who I am as a person. That comes with me. Whether I do coaching, continue coaching, or whether I go into window cleaning, for example, who I am comes with me. All my experiences, my skills, that most of them are transferable, and I'm not actually going to be losing as much as I think I am. But yeah, the reality is not half as scary as the prospect of it is.
I mean, working for yourself is hard. There's a lot of aspects that a lot of people don't think about that you have to like suddenly like either learn or get people's help with, get people in to help with certain aspects because, there's lots of things. Not everyone can do everything. So it is, daunting, but at the end of the day, you've got the skills. You've lived life, you've worked in whatever industries you've worked in. You always have the skills. And someone said to me once, all it takes is for you to know something that someone else doesn't know, and you can teach them that. And that is where business comes in. It's helping people and teaching people things that they don't know and doing those things for them. So everybody has transferable skills, most definitely. And yeah, you just gotta just have the confidence to make that step, I think.
Thanks, Kat. So on that
So,
topic then, coming back into what you do, in terms of, I'm going to give you a case study. I have a client who is just on the cusp. They're setting up their own little business. They're doing something that they've always done for a career. They're now doing it out of their garage at home, and but they, by their own admission, they haven't got a website, haven't got a brand yet, haven't got a social media following, and they're saying, I'm really good at what I do. I'm really experienced, and I can do it quicker, cheaper, faster, and better than, the big companies. But I don't know where to start with branding. I have no idea how to talk about myself online. The prospect of selling myself really drains the living daylight, drains all the energy and life out of me. And, I hate asking for people for money. And almost the prospect of having to do all of that takes away what, makes it feel like it's not going to be worth it. How would you, if I present you with that client, work with that person to get them to where they need to be?
so my first port of call would be to simply talk to them about what it is they want to do. And from conversations, those initial conversations, generally you can draw out what it is someone really wants to do, how they're passionate about, what part of it they're passionate about. A lot of people tend to try and want to offer too much stuff. And I am guilty of that. And I have just changed my website to get rid of the VA side of things because that is not what I want to do. But I was a little bit scared myself when I moved out there. And I was like, okay, I want to do this really, but I'll offer this as well because I know I can do that. And but when you do that, I don't think you're fully putting yourself out there. And the message gets very mixed. So to start with, you need to define what it is you want to do. You then need to work out who your audience is and what sort of voice you would like to have. And that is before you start thinking about online presences, because you need to truly work out what it is you want to do and how you want to talk to those people, what sort of approach you want. Yes, by all means, get a digital presence. It is not necessarily in all businesses. And this is coming from a web creator. You don't have to have a website. Some businesses are better on social media than websites. Just by having a website doesn't mean you're suddenly going to get business. That's not how it works. There are millions of websites out there. A website is more of a digital shop front that you then lead people to see what it is that you have on offer. And hopefully they come to your website and go, oh, do you know, that's great. I'm now going to talk to them. I'm going to book this. I'm going to buy this. But it is about you. It's about finding your audience and then bringing it down to the various levels and the best ways for you to be selling your product. Yeah, making a digital presence is quite important these days. Websites are good for funnels, but social media is almost more important. So I try to say to people, right, this is, you want a digital presence. I've got a young entrepreneur I've been working with recently who is starting out as a dog walker. She hasn't got lots of money. Um, so we actually made her a static website. It has a one-off cost. It can't really be changed very easily because it's coded, but it means there's no monthly costs. And she can start with that. It can get her Google business profile, which is more important for her as a dog walker because people go on Google dog walker. If she's got that profile, which the website helps her get, it then gets her business. So it all depends on the type of business you are running. I mean, it probably sounds really weird me saying, oh, you don't have to have a website, coming from someone that makes websites. But yeah, I would just talk to the people about what they want, what's best for them, and just start small. You can build up later when you've got more money in the bank, once you really understand what you want to do, because your business is going to progress, it's going to evolve, it's going to grow, it's going to change. Because until you're out there doing it, you don't necessarily know what your niche is. So start simple. That's my biggest advice.
Wow. Again, thank you so much for sharing. I think two things come to mind. Firstly, just the integrity is really coming through loud and clear of what you do and why you do it, which is why we connected, why I'm your biggest advocate and supporter, and send everyone your way who I feel can benefit from it, because you are a web developer who will turn around and say to someone if you feel that it's not the right time for them to have a website, because it isn't. My own business coach last year, he didn't have a website. I only have a website because I just, for reputational reasons, and because I like to do due diligence. I like to see someone's website, all their social media, and I like to pay them to a business account. Because I like those things, I've got those things, but I don't actually need any of those things to do what I do. It's just reputation. But just want to say again, what I want to reinforce what you said in a coaching context. I also believe that not everyone needs a coach. And I don't tell people you must have a coach, you have to have a coach, because I don't believe that. I believe that coaching is incredibly valuable and can accelerate your progress and get you where you want to get to faster with less pain along the way. But I'm going to say, a lot of people have achieved greatness without having had a coach, probably without having had a website or a business account as well. You don't need these things, but these things are incredibly valuable and beneficial. So I would say to someone, make your own mind up. Come and try out the product. And I recommend to anyone listening to get on your social media, have a look at Karen's website, cogdigital.com, I believe it is. Have a look at your socials, particularly your LinkedIn, because all your content is front loaded with valuable with value. So your newsletter, for example, I found out several things I need to do as a business owner that I wasn't aware of. And I've now optimized my Squarespace website, having read one of your blog articles. It cost me nothing other than time and look, being lucky enough to meet you and read your content. And you have helped me for no money. And it's got me wanting to come back for more. So big fan of people who do that with their social media. And I think that is a killer success strategy right there.
Oh, thank you. That's great. I mean, you've helped me a lot. We've talked, we've had various conversations. You've helped me um, realize that I was doing too much. There's one of the things that I think from some of the conversations, and I think at one point you said, so why do you do that? Why do you offer that when this is what you're truly passionate about? So you've definitely, from just general conversations, you've definitely helped lead me down a path that I think is much better for me. So yeah, it's great. I mean, from one of the questions I had for you is, what's helped you? Is there any particular books or mentors or things that have really had a true impact on you and your approach to coaching?
Yeah, I mean, wow, what a question. So I talk about this on my podcast in a couple of weeks. I've got an episode coming out, which is the 9 most influential books I've read. I don't believe in recommending books to people because I think the right book for you is the book that you find and feel called to and drawn to. As the books were important, but when I read them was probably even more important. But for me, like top of my head, one of my favorite books is called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield, and it's so accessible to everyone, no matter what job, career you're in, no matter what you want to do or don't even know what you want to do yet. It's just these tried and tested principles, and it's the most well-researched book, so full of examples of how to actually practice this stuff. And you're better to buy and read one self-help book than have a whole shelf of self-help books that you read or don't read and never do anything about it and never put any of the actions into into place and practice. So I'd say, yeah, the success principles were super powerful. And for me, having my own coach, but in the world of business and what I'm doing now, business networking has been so essential, and showing up to the same groups again and again and again, seeing the same people, that's actually been beneficial, because they're only then and only then can I start to build relationships and get to know people and what they do, versus, kind of dropping into lots of different networking events like a scattergun approach, because I see someone and kind of their name and who they are and what they do, it's in one ear and out the other. I need to see them several times to get to know them and have a coffee like we've done, Karen, in order to really understand what you do, so that you're in the forefront of my mind when I see someone who needs you, because, I give as get. Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Those relationships that we are building in those networks are so important for so many different ways. Um, being the only person in a business can be really lonely, and having someone there that understands, and that you can talk to and you can see on a different basis, and you see them succeed, and it gives you confidence to be like, okay, this can work. I can do this, because you're seeing others achieving it as well. It's just, yeah, those relationships are so important indeed.
Exactly. And you
So
go into a business networking event for the first time. I'm not going to lie, you might feel a bit like a fraud and an imposter. I did. I felt well
I
out of my
did,
depth with my
yeah,
little Vistaprint business cards, and pitching myself, knowing that there's other people in the room who are probably earning 4 or 5 figures a month, and there's me there, earning a couple hundred quid a month. But I went in there knowing, and owning that fact. Hey guys, this is my first business networking event. I don't really know. I haven't really pitched myself before, so I'm just going to come and, meet you all and just want to say thank you for having me. And I did,
yeah,
and people took a really nice a liking to me, and people like yourself came and said, "Come and have a chat. Let me help you. Let me give you some wisdom and advice." And it was lovely.
yeah. It is. It's really lovely. I felt such an imposter. I didn't know what to wear. Like, I went all suited and booted, and everyone else was in jeans. So then I felt even more out of place. Yeah, it was hilarious. And I love the networking that we do and where we met, because it's such a relaxed atmosphere, and that for me is so much better for me. I feel generally a lot more comfortable, and I think finding the type of networking you want to do and you're comfortable in is really important as well.
Yeah,
So
because you go
yeah,
to these events, and I think the biggest realization I had was, oh my goodness, business people are real people too, and they're normal. They're normal people. Not all of them, but the vast majority of them are just normal people with normal lives, doing perfectly normal things. But they've broken away from working in a company, and they're just doing what they were doing for themselves and invoicing clients. It really isn't that different, and in some ways, it really isn't that hard. But I definitely overcomplicated it and assumed that everyone in this room knows something I don't.
I think we can all be guilty of that sometimes. I mean, even now, like, I still occasionally I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I am such a small fish in this giant pond. But yeah, I think everyone's just been so friendly that I've met. So yeah, it's really great. Just get out there and do it.
Here's to being a small fish, like Nemo, a friendly one that everyone remembers
Indeed,
for the right
indeed.
reasons. So, on that bombshell, just want to say a huge thank you for coming on the show, Karen. If someone's listening, which I'm sure they are, and if they are absolutely decided, I need a conversation with Karen, how do they get in touch? Where can they find you? What would you instruct them to do?
Okay, well, you can find me on my website, kogdigital.com. I offer 30-minute free consultations where we have a video call. You can also find me under Karen Cooke on Facebook and LinkedIn, and that's Cook with an E on the end.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you
Wonderful.
can find me. I'm around, lurking about, answering questions. I'm there. I'm there to help you.
And if nothing else, just give Karen a like and a follow on the socials, sign up to newsletter, and I guarantee you will learn something you didn't know, and it will help you in some way that you weren't expecting. And you may well, that may well be all you ever do. But for me, it's been really, really helpful. So thank you. Keep producing content that helps me out. please.
Well, thank you, and thank you for inviting me on. And yeah, you keep doing these podcasts as well. It's great information for so many people. Quite a lot of your conversations, I've been like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's a really good way of thinking about things. So yeah, no, you keep at it as well. Your passion for helping people it really comes across. So thank you.
Thanks, Karen. I try not to let the need for perfection get in the way of good enough, because nothing in life is ever perfect. But yes, your websites are pretty darn close.
Thank you.
The Solo Coach Podcast.